Okay, we're talking about latency time with the cabling from guitar to processor to source. So here's the layout here. It's got this guitar here, going over here with a small cable to the GP5, and here is an exaggerated, it's like 12 plus feet. I think it's actually like 14 feet worth of mini plug cable. I've actually got a adapter here, but it's just a mini jack to a 1/4 inch here. So let's go ahead and see what it's like when I play it with 14 feet worth of cable, and then check it again when I'm using like 2 feet of cable. Here we go. Okay, so just having plugged it in, I can tell that there's something going on here. So it might be hard to really see, but listen to the sound versus me picking the string. So, I mean, it's not like crazy, but it's one of those things where it's kind of like if you're talking on a cell phone and you've got a voice echo in the background, how it feels like you don't know what to do, like it's causing you to stutter because basically you're hearing your own voice, and that constant echo is just making you kind of hang up. Well, I've never really thought about it much with guitar processors, but with this here, it's one of those things I never even thought about it until I tried hooking it up with a longer cable. And all of a sudden, I'm sitting here trying to play, and it feels like I'm having trouble because I'm hearing things that I already did, or at least partially. So just playing in general was like, it felt weird. So I'm just like, I can turn it up some. And to me, it's enough off where if you're trying to do individual notes too, it feels more awkward. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and run the shorter cable and see what it's like now. So, in trying this example, I realized something. When somebody had said something about the length of cable doesn't matter, and I know that length of cable can matter with some things because there's reasons that they don't sell cables past a certain length, like, you know, HDMI cables, which is also different, I guess, because it's digital in some respects, but you know, compared to a guitar signal that's just left and right audio. But something that I've never encountered before was that normally I have used this GP5 setup just with headphones, or in some occasions I have used it with this or another Bluetooth speaker that I have that's a Sony. Plugged directly in. So, if you listen to this now, I'm using basically 6-7 feet of cable right now to this little Bluetooth speaker. The latency is basically gone. We'll get a little closer here. hopefully that's all able to be seen there on camera really well. So what I didn't realize is that even without any processing, if you notice here, I have to change it here, but a lot of receivers have, different modes like standard, spectacle, things like that, pro logic. Well, I hit straight on this, which is supposed to not alter or do anything through the input at all, make no changes. Even with that bypassed, there's some introduced latency apparently through their auxiliary in. I've used gear like this on like 5 different setups. I mean, various different headphones. I mean, big headphones, little earbuds, various things like that. I've used it with this Bluetooth speaker here and another one that I have. Never had any issues, as well as a couple of different stereo setups, including a headrush unit. I'm going to go ahead and grab the other Sony speaker just to have it here for an example. Okay, so this right here is another speaker that I have that I've used. It's a similar size to this other JBL. It's just a Sony version. Maybe a little better sounding, but this one here also, no issues at all as far as like the latency at all. So again, having used stuff like this with so many different older known sources or known gear before, never ran into any kind of like latency issue before. Really wasn't until hooking it up to this that I ever noticed it, and it just so happened that I was using a really long cable, and it was multiple cables. I mean, literally, in order to hook that up, I'm using, a 6-footer with a little 2-foot gender changer here on it, and then again another 6-foot cable just to run it across the room. I just leave this thing over by the couch and then just plug it in here. It's pretty quick, right? Well, until I went ahead and did that, I didn't realize how much I wasn't going to be able to use it because of that latency just causing everything to feel wacky. So anyway, really thought that based on just running long cable, that was showing me that it was actually adding latency. And maybe there is a certain length where you start ending up with problems like that. I don't know. Maybe you run 40 feet. Who knows? I don't have that much. I've got basically about 14 feet when you add all these cables together. But what I was doing was literally going on the other side of the room here, plugging it into here, noticed that it was a problem, and then turned around and literally plugged in my headphones in most cases and realized it sounded perfect. Or using this little guy up to one of these 2 different speakers here. So in that process, I'm just like, well, it's got to be the cable length. So in this case, I was actually wrong, but I did learn something about this particular gear, or maybe things that other people may have a problem with if you're playing at home. I don't know, if it would be relegated to just being a problem with something like this little guy here, like the GP5, or if it could be all gear. Honestly, I think if I were to run anything directly into that aux front input there, it would probably do the same thing. I would have no reason to believe otherwise. Would I be able to plug it into the rear and be better? Yeah, possibly. I really don't understand why just running it through that aux would be a problem at all. And normally if you're just going to be playing music or something through that front where it's not actively being played, it wouldn't be an issue. But for some reason, it just introduces a little bit of a delay somehow into that when you're running it through that input. So anyway, if anybody's ever had like the question of like, hey, why does my gear sound like it's lagging? It's a very good possibility depending on what you're using, especially if it's maybe more just like a 5.1 or maybe even a stereo unit, especially if it's newer, that maybe that's introducing some lag to it. Again, this is not like a crazy amount, but it's just enough to maybe double think yourself and get you out of whack. So, and that's enough. I'm one of those players where it's really hard for me to even use like a pedal detuner of sorts. I don't play loud enough normally because I just play at home to where if I'm playing it, if I can hear the strings at that pitch and it's pitched down or up, it screws me all up. I pretty much have to play with like earplugs or headphones in to be able to use something like a detuner effectively. So, at any rate, well, that was my finding with it. Maybe this will be useful for somebody. I'm sure I'm not the first person to ever run into it before, but uh, might be one of the first people to ever think, oh, hey, that's why. I don't know. But anyway, hopefully that's helpful to somebody out there. If you like that or happen to run into it yourself or have never seen it before, either way, let me know in the comments. Give me a thumbs up. Thanks. Have a good one.